2023 will go down as one of the best years in anime history. There really was an anime for everyone last year. If you wanted an anime with a great story and great characters, then you had masterpieces like Vinland Saga Season 2, Heavenly Delusion, Pluto, Frieren Beyond Journey's End, and the Apothecary Diaries. Shonen fans had One Piece with Luffy hitting Gear 5, My Hero Academia returning to form with Season 6, Attack on Titan ending after 10 years, Howl's Paradise killing everyone, Black Clover having a good movie, Bleach 1000 Year Blood War continuing to be the best thing Studio Pierrot have ever made, and Jujutsu Kaisen setting a new standard for shonen adaptations, whilst reminding everyone of how poorly treated animators are. Oh, and also Demon Slayer aired. Sports fans had Blue Lock and Tsurune, romance fans had Tomo-Chan is a Girl, The Dangers in My Heart, Skip and Loafer, Insomniacs After School, My Happy Marriage, and Horimiya. Good year for you guys. Isekai enjoyers had The Eminence and Shadow, Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun Season 3, Shangri-La Frontier, and everyone's favourite wholesome show, Mushoku Tensei. And silent fans even got to enjoy the likes of Bungo Stray Dogs and Oshinoko. And even outside of these anime, I'm ignoring some truly brilliant anime that aired last year. So it's no surprise that with such a vast amount of quality content, that a lot of anime unfortunately went under the radar. And in my opinion, there was no anime hampered by this as much as Undead Unluck, which is a real shame because it was a really solid shonen. Undead Unluck follows our two leads, Andy and Fuko, both of whom are negators. Negators are people with abilities that negate the rules of the world. Andy has the undead ability, meaning he negates death and therefore cannot die, whilst Fuko has the unluck ability, which negates luck and thus means that anyone she touches will be hit with bad luck, which for a lot of people usually means death. However, these abilities, which both of them hate, are only the beginning of their issues when they get attacked by the Union, who desire to kill them due to their negator abilities. Andy and Fuko then have to work together to make sure that they are neither killed nor captured by the Union. Both are pretty good leads in my opinion, although I do like Andy significantly more. He can be very funny in this series, often keeping the viewer glued to their screen, and I love all the ways that he uses his undead ability. The creator of Undead Unluck clearly put a lot of thought into how Andy's undead abilities of regeneration could be used, and it leads to some really exciting action sequences with some inventive moments. However, some people will also bounce right off this show due to Andy's character. For Fuko's unluck ability to work, she needs to have skin contact with someone, and since Andy wants nothing more than to die, and also since Andy will often use Fuko's unluck ability in battle, he often doesn't ask to just grab her. And when I say he touches her or grabs her, I'm talking more like the Meliodas kind of grabbing than just grabbing her hand to get some unluck. It wasn't a deal breaker for me, but it absolutely will be for others. Speaking of Fuko, I said she was a good protagonist earlier, but as I've been talking, I think I've changed my mind. There's not really that much to her. Honestly, my favourite thing about her is that her favourite manga is basically Kimi no Todoke from Me to You. Side note, I'm absolutely looking forward to Season 3 when that airs later this year. But anyway, Fuko's a very innocent character and she's very kind, but she's also kind of boring compared to the rest of the characters. Essentially, I find her to be very one note, which isn't always an issue, but in this case that one note did not click with me. And this show also sets up this romance between Andy and Fuko, which did not work with me at all. I just did not buy at all that Fuko would ever fall for Andy, at least in such a short time frame. There are a lot more characters in Undead Unluck, but I won't go into too much detail on them to avoid spoilers. I liked Billy from day one, he just looked cool and I instantly gravitated towards him, so I'm glad that he has a very important role in this series, even if it wasn't the role I expected him to play. Shen was a fun character, Rip really grew on me, as did Jewiz, and Tatiana had an episode that surprisingly made me really emotional. I really grew to care for that character, and she's a definite standout in this season. Before I even started watching Undead Unluck, I remember manga readers giving a lot of forewarning, telling us that Undead Unluck doesn't have the best start, but becomes a lot better later on. Now that was never going to stop me from watching the whole season. I am someone who persevered through Black Clover's beginning, and what was shocking to me was that I actually really liked the first few episodes of Undead Unluck, in no small part due to the amazing animation on display by David Production. However, I would have to agree with the sentiment that Undead Unluck does get better, as it starts introducing all these amazing concepts and unique ideas that I've genuinely never seen before in an anime. Undead Unluck, for all its faults, doesn't just feel like a copy and paste of another, better anime. It is telling its own story, and that story is genuinely something different. The anime doesn't always execute it the best, since this show has some shockingly bad editing for some episodes. Editing is one of those things where even if it's not great, you don't usually notice it. The editing in Undead Unluck was noticeably bad at times, which really says a lot. I also think the cinematography and direction in this show was quite weak too. The tone changes a lot in this anime, but it isn't handled the best a lot of the time and can be really jarring. And whilst I did say that I thought Undead Unluck got better with each passing episode, I have to admit that I did start to lose interest in this series as we reached the end of this first season. Truthfully, I would like a second season of Undead Unluck, but if this was one of those anime that never came back, then I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Give me another season of Naragami before this. So why do I feel that way? Firstly, the animation declines as the season progresses. I might be misremembering, but I really do feel that the earlier episodes of Undead Unluck had much better animation than the later ones. I will admit that I do have a bit of a bias towards David Production. They're sort of my A1 Pictures. If you don't get what I mean by that, a lot of people look down on A1 Pictures as an OK studio, despite the consistently strong work that they put out. Mainly because they don't always make the best anime despite putting a lot of effort into their adaptations. That's sort of how I feel about David Production. They are a great studio, but the last few anime I watched from them all had different problems. Fire Force was great, but compared to other shonen, it's not as good. Spriggan sucked, and Stone Ocean had, in my opinion, quite weak animation. So I've basically developed a bit of a stigma against them, despite the great work they can do. Unfortunately, I do think they dropped the ball a little with the latter half of Undead Unluck's first season. The weaker animation, the choppy editing, the poor direction, it all built up for me, and it genuinely did affect my enjoyment of this series, which, by the way, I did overall still enjoy. However, one aspect that never weakened for me was the soundtrack to this anime. A lot of action sequences and moments in this anime were really carried by the soundtrack. And can we just talk about the first opening for this show? If there's one thing that you can rely on David Production to do well, it's an anime opening. They produce some of the most iconic in the industry, and Undead Unluck's first opening is a real banger in my opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of Queen Bee's music, but they really delivered here. Also, word of caution, don't make the same mistake that I did. I like to do this thing where I look up artists on my anime list who have done openings that I really like. Turns out Queen Bee is actually a translation and the manga by the Japanese version of the name. And not only that, when you search Queen Bee on my anime list, it turns out that there is a hentai studio by that name, and you'll be blasted by a lot of smut. However, I'm sure quite a few of you already knew that. Also, who is rating these hentai? Who watches porn and then afterwards goes, alright, it's time to give this a score out of 10. But anyway, we went off topic. Undead Unluck has a fantastic first opening, and I love both ending songs too. Although I will admit that I wasn't a big fan of the second opening, just wasn't my cup of tea. I'm realising that this video is probably more negative than both you or I were expecting, but I did enjoy Undead Unluck. Whilst this animation does weaken over the season, the anime can produce some beautifully animated sequences that get massive boosts from the consistently strong soundtrack. The majority of the characters in this anime are fun and entertaining to watch, and there should be at least one character that you click with. On top of that, this anime has a stacked voice cast filled with many heavy hitters, so you won't be let down by the performances in this anime. And I still stand by the fact that even if the execution isn't always the best, this anime has some truly awesome ideas and concepts that I would like to see taken even further. 2023 was an amazing year for anime, and Undead Unluck was not one of the best anime that released that year. But it was still a good anime in my opinion, and would undoubtedly have been a much bigger hit had it released in a less stacked year. Because of it being overshadowed by bigger and better shows, I feel like Undead Unluck has become a really underrated and underappreciated anime. But anyway, that was just my opinion on this anime. What's yours? Did you like this anime? Have you even seen it? Do you agree with me that the animation weakened near the end of the season? And also that there were some other issues, which do lead me to believe that there was probably some production issues going on behind the scenes. Also, what do you think of the characters? Who's your favourite? And would you like to see a second season? Let me know your answers to all those questions in the comments below, and be sure to hit the like button on your way down there. It really boosts this video in the YouTube algorithm. And if you're feeling really generous, then do consider subscribing. I'm aiming to hit 1000 subscribers before the end of the year, and it's looking really doable. I'd really appreciate you helping me to hit that goal. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, it means a lot to me, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.